Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Monday Motivation Spotlight. I'm Lesley Kaplan. Welcome you every Monday morning for 30 minutes of inspiration based in Israel. And we welcome those that are joining live, which is always great because you get to participate behind the scenes as well as in the chat. You also get to share your business details. And welcome if you're listening to the recording. Today, we're going to have a great session. As always, every week we have a wonderful speaker who's going to be sharing information with us that we can be inspired, be motivated, and think about how it can directly impact our lives and what we can do to make our lives better, as well as that of Israel. As we know, this series was started due to the war and is going to continue well after the war, which we hope will not continue for too long. And this series, too, as you know, is brought to you by ACI, our co-host, and of course, our co-sponsor for the month, Kim Bash, Israel's realtor and matchmaker for the Anglo community. So what do we have in line for you today? We have a fabulous speaker, my friend and colleague, Meira, who I'm going to co-spotlight to. Let's actually spotlight her here. All right, Meira, who's looking gorgeous today, looking great every day, but today in particular. Meira is, I've known for about 12 years, and we met, and we've, had a lovely relationship and friendship since then. She's a life coach. She's a holistic counselor. She's a teacher of Jewish meditation, and she helps her clients unlock their potential by dismantling their energy blocks. She also focuses a lot on women who are looking to transform their relationships and who are in a transitional phase of their relationships. And she helps them find love again with her program. She'll tell us a little bit about it and how she got into this, and for divorced and widowed women. But she works with people, across the sector too. So Meira, good morning. I'm so happy to have you as our guest. Please inspire us for the morning. We all need inspiration, and we look forward to hearing a little bit more about the Meira Golbert Bar-Lev. Take it away.
Okay. Good morning, and thank you for having me. Bad things do happen to good people, as I'm sure everyone here can agree. But losing my high-paying job in 1993 was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. Does that sound crazy? Well, I'm going to tell you more about that. And I recently saw a movie called Unsinkable, which I like the sound of. It's about resilience, obviously. And what the word that appealed to me more was unbreakable. So I'm going to tell you how I learned to be unbreakable, to be resilient, and to embrace Emunah in my life. So it's attributed to Einstein, the quote that I think of often: the most important decision we make is whether we believe that the universe is friendly. So when I was growing up as a child, I was a very happy child. I grew up in Houston, Texas, and life was beautiful. And then one day, my parents called me and my younger sister in and told us that my father had cancer and that Daddy was going to die. And the next few months went by in a kind of a blur, and then he died, and my whole world crumbled. I was 11 years old. I had no kelim. I had no tools to help me. I had no support. My mother just fell apart and just kept in her room every day. And my little sister was crying every day. And I was 11, but I said to myself, I cannot fall apart no matter what. I decided that I had to grow up fast and do whatever I could to keep the family together. Because if I didn't, I was afraid that we would just all collapse and it would just be gone. And so that was too scary for me. So I told myself, if I can get through this, I can get through anything. And somehow, I don't really know how, I kept on going. And of course, this singular event became the focus of many years of therapeutic work. So fast forward past university, where I got a BA and an MA at the University of Texas, I came to live in Miami. And a couple of things happened there in that period of my life. My roommate introduced me to a healing circle. And I used to go to the healing circle because I like to feel the energy. And then one day, someone who was working on me said, "Hey, you're on the wrong side of the table. Get up and join us." And I said, "What?" He said, "Get up." So I got up and I followed him around the room, and I discovered that I had this energy that people could feel. So I started becoming interested in healing from that. And then the other thing that happened was that I met Rabbi Mitchell Shefitz, who introduced me to the Havurah of South Florida. And I learned about Judaism in a real live way, in an exciting way. And I started to think that maybe I should become a rabbi. That was that was actually my first dream. And so then I moved to Philadelphia briefly, and I met Rabbi Zalman Schachter and became part of the B'nai Or community in Philadelphia. And I started going to shul regularly and becoming part of the group and learning a lot about Judaism, and still interested in becoming a rabbi. But the job market there wasn't so good, and I ended up getting a job back in Miami. So before I left, I prayed to God and asked if this was where he wanted me to be. And I just felt that I needed to do that, just felt pushed. So before I left, I changed my name from Jennifer to Meira. So now I go by Meira Jennifer. And I arrived in Miami as Meira. And I chose the name because it was my father's name was Meyer, and I wanted to honor him. And at that time, I didn't know if I would ever have kids. So I picked Meira because it means brings light, and that's what I wanted to do with my life. So I went to work for a major Jewish organization in Miami, and things went well for a while. And then I got a new boss, and she and I, from the very beginning, did not do so well together. And during that time, I started thinking that my spiritual search and my job search had connected, but I needed to do more. And I was still thinking about becoming a rabbi, and I applied to rabbinical college in Philadelphia. And when I went up for an interview, they said, "Gee, you're really nice, but you don't know anything. So you need to go spend a year in Israel, like go to someplace like Pardes." So I went back to Miami to my job. And shortly after that, my boss called me and said, "You and I don't exactly make beautiful music together. And one of us has to go, and it's not going to be me." So with that, I stopped myself from responding because it was a huge blow to me at that moment. But I really kind of held myself, and I felt like an internal strength in my core. And this became the secret to my unbreakability. I had kind of an inner knowing that something better was waiting for me. And I left, and I had like a month to find a job. So I found two little jobs, both connected to Israel. And then one, and then the other one just kind of fell apart on me. And then I got a letter from Pardes that said, "We're so happy to have you come join us in Israel." And I said, "Okay, Hashem, God, I get it. This is where you want me to go." So I packed my bags and left for Israel, ostensibly for a year. But when I got here, I fell in love with Israel. I was walking around one Sukkot, looking at all the people in sukkahs, and I said, "Wow, this is home. This is where I belong." It was an amazing feeling. And so, yeah, I went to Pardes, and I enjoyed it very much. And I learned a great deal. And I started to learn Hebrew, which I never really fully mastered, sad to say. I was one of their older students. And at the end of the year, I decided towards the middle of the year that I needed to, I was already 40, early 40, and I thought I should be dating because I wasn't getting any younger. And so I met a man, and at the end of my first year at Pardes, I got married, and then I made Aliyah. That was 30 years ago. And, things didn't go so well. I wanted to be a good Jewish wife, but honestly, things were difficult, and I didn't like what was going on or who I was becoming. And so we got divorced. And as I was resettling into my new place, I got a call 2 weeks later from a friend who knew me. And she said, I have someone for you to meet. I said, you're kidding. I just got divorced. Leave me alone. She said, no, no, just meet him. So I met him, and we had a kind of a bumpy beginning, but we ended up getting married, and we were married for 23 years. Um, and then at the end of in the middle of that time, let me back a little bit. I married him, and he knew very well that I wanted to have kids, and that I was already in my mid-40s, and that was going to be challenging, but it was really important to me. And all the doctors were very negative, but I didn't believe in statistics. The statistics said, someone of my age doesn't have kids, but I didn't believe in it. And we went to a lot of rabbis for blessings, and I did everything to get healthy. And Baruch Hashem, I got pregnant at 48, and I delivered twins at 49. Some of you may not know that. It's unusual because I looked up a statistic in the States, and it said that in the year 2017, there were 3,800,000 babies born, but only 0.002% were to women over 45. So I brought in two amazing kids into the world. And then in 2005, my life changed again when my mother called me up and said, I'm making Aliyah, come and get me. So I did, and I became her caretaker for the next almost 15 years. And during that time, I also became a life coach. And I was still looking, and in 2009, I attended a meeting of the Journey Intensive that was led by a woman named Brandon Bays, who developed this incredible program called the Journey Method. And I discovered that it was a very deep method to help people to heal. I became certified as a practitioner, and later I was one of the first Journey life coaches in the world. And so this was what I was doing for a long time, and it was very rewarding work, working one-on-one with people as a coach. And in February 2020, COVID began in Israel, and as you know, and on the 27th, I received a call from my mother's doctor that I needed to take her to the emergency room because her blood test didn't look good. And I took her, and it was 7 intense hours while we waited to get answers to tests and everything. And they finally put her in a bed, and then right before my eyes, she died. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing, really. Again, I felt this calmness after the hysteria because, they tried to bring her back, but it was unsuccessful. And so I sat by her side, and it was a very quiet, deep feeling to just be there with her at the end, as I had been all along. for the last 15 years. And then I went and spoke at the funeral, and everyone said that I was so strong, which I said, no, I'm really not that strong.
Sorry.
Okay. And after the Shiva,
תודה רבה.
amid preparations for Purim and preparations for my husband's 80th birthday, I got a call from the doctor that I needed to take him to the hospital. And so it was actually the same hospital. I took him into the hospital, and for 4.5 days, they did tests on him, and he was fine. He was walking around and he was happy. And then on Friday, they said he could go home, and he came home, and we had a beautiful Shabbat. And then he went upstairs to go to bed. And when I went upstairs to go to bed, I found him, and he was not responsive. And long story short, he had passed away. So within 2 weeks, I lost my mom and my husband. And it was very, very, very hard. Thank God, the community was amazing. I have the privilege and the honor to have Rav Shlomo Katz as our Rav, and he assured me that the community would be there for me like a big hug. And they were. And as Joe Dispenza says, in every situation, there's a space between what happened and our thoughts about it. And this space is a key to our resilience. So your thoughts lead to emotions, not to what happened. Our thoughts are actually causing our suffering. And 80% of our thoughts are negative. And generally the negative ones stick and the positive ones slip away. Well, I learned to use this space to push away the negative thoughts and to replace them with positive thoughts or positive images. So in the depths of my grief, I struggled with my thoughts, yes, and my memories and my guilt feelings. And I learned that grief comes in waves, and the waves can be ridden out. And so they could come for me at any time. And I fully gave myself permission to be open to the waves and to just let them have me. And even if I was out in public and I had to cry, I allowed it. And I think that was really important to my healing. I would reach down into my own reservoir of my own self and know and see that the me, the true self of me was unbroken, that there was hope there. And I was learning from Rav Daniel Katz in the Elevation Project that Hashem actually created the world for us. Not everything that he does is not to us, but for us. And so you can have a choice to be a victim or to be a co-creator. And so I decided on the latter. And I became a teacher of Jewish meditation under his teaching. And I created a course at the time called Healing from Grief. About a year after Jack passed away, I started dating again. And I had to overcome a lot of limiting beliefs about, who was I? I was a senior citizen already. And I was concerned that people would judge me by my age and not want to even meet me. And it was a very hard time. But I had a positive mindset about it. I just knew that there was someone out there for me. Someone was out there for me. And through a series of amazing events, which I won't go into now, I met my husband, and we got married in 2021, and we had a COVID wedding out on the street near my home, and about 350 people were there. And people came up to me and said, You've inspired me. You've given me hope. I want that in my life. And one of them even said, you're proof there's a God in the world. So I started thinking after our wedding that this was an area where people needed me, and I could use my skills to put together a program. And I put together a program called Finding Love Again in 2022. And the program was very successful. And then I started to think about doing it differently. And then we had the war, and I had to reinvent Meira. And I have to actually credit Monday Motivation for really picking me out of a slump, because for months I did nothing. I was just in a state of shock, as I imagine that I'm not the only one in here that was there in that place. I actually heard on a Monday Motivation with Sherry Mandel, she said something about being life affirming. And I said, yes, that's what I do. The work I do is life affirming. So I've been working hard now on the new updated version of Finding Love, which I'm hoping to run in the spring after Pesach. So I want to tell you that you are inherently unbreakable. You're unsinkable. You're able to bounce back. Bad things will happen, as you know, and you may feel pain, but suffering is a choice. Suffering is caused by our thoughts about something, and we are not our thoughts. If you notice the space between what happens and your thoughts about it, this is where you can actually stop the negative thoughts before they go any further and affect your emotions. And so one way to do this is to have some positive thoughts and images ready in your mind so that you can quickly make a switch. Because really it needs to be done in the first few seconds you start thinking negative thoughts, that you can actually stop them from spiraling you down. And you can become aware of and release and reframe any limiting negative beliefs. So I also learned that Amuna is more than faith. It's a state of consciousness where you can actually connect with God or Hashem or Source or grace or whatever word you want to use for a higher power. And you can discover that there is a gift or a teaching in everything that happens to you. So I just wanted to end up with saying that next week on the 25th of February, I'll be giving a free webinar called Finding Love. And anyone who wants to find love in their life is invited to come. Any of you can come, even if that's not where you are, just to hear me. And I put a link in the chat, or Lesley can put a link.
Yeah, I put it in the chat already.
And I also work with people one-on-one, not only on love. I've been working with a number of people on health issues in their life. And since the body and mind are connected, you're working on the emotional issues when you're working on physical issues at the same time. So I've been working a lot with people abroad, and I would love to work with anyone here or anyone that you know that might enjoy working with me. I'm putting a link also in the chat for a 20-minute free call with me. So I want to thank you, Lesley, for inviting me to come and share my story. I hope it was interesting, and I hope that everybody got something out of it. It's a pleasure to be
inspiring.
up here.
You hope it was interesting. It was very interesting. You know, we have amazing speakers on our show, and Baruch Hashem, everyone has been, you know, an amazing speaker. I can't think of anyone who hasn't been an amazing speaker. But when we hear a story like yours, there's just something in it which, like, we say, wow, okay? And we've had many wows before. And as I say, I've known Meira for since when I started doing the workshops and we connected professionally, and then I got to know her. She was in my mastermind group. When I say was, for 2 years, we still have it as an online WhatsApp group, and some of you here are and were in that group too. So when you know someone, and then you suddenly have a 30-minute session like this where you get to hear a different side of somebody, and not actually different, but an additional side, let's say. It's like, wow, I've known Meira for 12 years, and I know or approximately 12 years, and I know many of the things that you've told us, but I discovered a new Meira, and I'm sure that many of your friends here in the room also discovered a new Meira and things that they didn't know about you. So Meira, thank you so much. You were super inspirational. And your story, I truly believe, anyone that has and is going through challenges in their lives, and your positive attitude and your calming nature, and just, you're quite correct how, we choose how we want to show up and how we want to face the world, and what, in some ways, not what our future will hold, because we don't know what our future will hold. We choose the direction that we want to move in when we're faced with things. And yes, we all know that it's easier said than done. But as Meira has shown us here, Baruch Hashem, she found love again, and her life and all the challenges that were put in front of her, she managed to overcome them, and it didn't mean that there wasn't suffering. So this is what inspiration is all about. So Meira, thank you so much for giving us this wonderful inspiration and for sharing the very personal elements in your life, not only with those that were here live. And as I said, it's always great to join live because then we're feeling it immediately, and we can also participate in the chat. But if you're watching the recording, I've no doubt that you were inspired as well, also by Meira's words. So we've come to the end of another Monday Motivation Spotlight. I thank you again for joining. Thank you too to ACI, our co-host, as well as to Kim Bash, our sponsor. Next week, the Kim Bash is actually going to be our guest. You're going to hear a little bit more about Kim behind the scenes, focusing on community and on Aliyah. And we will have another week of inspiration. So as I end off, we wish Am Yisrael another challenging, but hopefully a better week. We have lots of things that we're looking forward to. So we don't want to have challenges, but we hope that we will overcome the challenges in the same inspiring way that Meira and that many of our speakers have taught us and inspired us to overcome challenges. So Am Yisrael Chai, thank you for joining us. Have a fantastic week. Thank you once again, Meira, for a great session. Same time, same place next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.